It's that time of year again, folks, the dog days of summer, and time to think about back-to-school shopping. Now save your time, save your money, and save your patience instead of going to Walmart and waiting in one line that's open out of 26 with 7,000 people in line ahead of you. Go to gearnetwork.com/Amazon and click on the back-to-school banner, and it will take you right to your account, and you can shop right there. And what's new this year, if you go there and you enter in your zip code, it's going to bring up the list of schools near your area. You can choose one and the grade that you're shopping for, and it's going to bring up the school list for that grade for that school, so you can cross-reference your school supply needs based on the list that was provided to Amazon. Sweet feature this year, saves you a lot of time. Again, gearnetwork.com/Amazon. Click the back to school link, do your shopping through there. It helps us out, it helps you out, and it definitely does not help Walmart out, but they don't need help anyway. So again, thank you for bookmarking and saving and sharing our links to Amazon through gearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
What's up, Rock Soldiers? This is another episode of All Bets Are Off with Robbie Vegas, and today we have Sharon Lentz from the TV show Dark Shadows. Yes, not the Johnny Depp movie, but the original TV show that ran from 1966 to 1971. So we're going to have Sharon on answering some questions and digging into her career a little bit deeper, maybe some things you didn't know, and we're not going to waste any time, so let's get Sharon on the phone and do this thing.
That it's Barnabas Collins.
Hi there, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. I thank you so much for doing this. I truly appreciate it.
Not a problem. Sorry I flaked on you the other night. It was insanity.
Oh, that's okay. I understand that things happen. And I hope everything is okay, of course.
Yeah, bigger kids, bigger problems. They have little kids, and then there's more problems.
Oh, right.
It'll all work out the way it's supposed to work out. I have faith.
Absolutely. I'm big into faith myself, so I completely agree. So I wanted to start pretty much back at the very start of your career. So you started off at a super young age. You were a model for Sears, is that correct?
Yeah, I was 5 years old when I started, believe it or not.
And how did you end up doing that?
Completely by accident. My mother crossed paths with a woman who was an agent, personal agent for children at the time. Now, this was early 60s, okay? And this was not, I lived in Philadelphia.
Okay.
And this was not part of our world. My father was a blue-collar worker in a factory. My mom was a housewife. And, about as normal white bread as you can get. And this woman approached my mother and she said, do you ever consider putting your daughter on TV or modeling? And my mom was like, no. And she said, would you like to? And my mom said, I don't know, sure. So they exchanged phone numbers, and this was way before cell phones and all of the technology. My mom, I think, probably figured she'd never hear from the woman. But sure enough, within a month's time, my mom got a phone call from this woman. Her name was Florence Creasy, and asked my mother, would you take your daughter up to New York for an interview or an audition? And my mom said yes, which is kind of bizarre to me now when I think about it. That's coming out of left field. That's, like I said, not part of our world. But my mom said yes. My father, who always wanted to be in the entertainment field. He was on the fringes, but he always wanted to be an entertainer. He was all for it. He said, yes, absolutely, go, whatever it takes. And we took a Trailways bus from New Jersey to New York and went to this audition, which I must be honest, I don't really remember that specific audition. I remember auditions, but not that specific one. And I ended up getting a modeling job out of it. It wasn't Sears and Roebuck's right away. I did other modeling, print ads. And then I ended up doing runway modeling up in New York for some of the big houses at the time, anyway, that needed props. Children were like props. And these beautiful women would walk down the runway in their beautiful tweed suits or fancy dresses. And, sometimes they had a child with them, and that's how I got to do modeling up in New York. One thing led to another, and we just started to go on these auditions on a fairly regular basis because it was becoming, I want to say profitable. I don't know if that's the word, the correct word. It's not like we were making tons of money, but, they were paying us for this, and my mom thought it was pretty cool. So auditions started to go from print ads and modeling to voiceovers to actual commercials. And my first commercial was for Post Sugar Crisps, which is now, I believe, Honey Bear.
Okay.
It's more politically correct to say Honey Bear than Sugar Crisps.
Right.
But back in the day, that wasn't an issue. And that commercial, actually, I have a copy of that commercial online. Someone sent it to me. They dug it up from some nostalgia place. I don't know. Funny as all, and never would float in this day and age. Because it was semi-violent. It was about a bank robbery, and there were little kids running around like they were very high on sugar, and bank robbers hitting each other over the head. And it was crazy. It's adorable to watch. But it was a very long time ago. I was probably about 6 when I made that commercial. And I refer to myself back then as a completely different person. Right. I look at that little girl and I go, oh my God, how cute. As if she was a grandchild.
Right.
It's not so much I'm reflecting on me. I can appreciate the fact that I was a cute little girl. I had the look for that time period. Mm-hmm. I had braids and freckles, and I was very small for my age. So I could comprehend what they wanted me to do. Still looked like a little tiny girl.
Right, right. And you were doing voiceovers for radio too, right?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Again, just another audition. 9 times out of 10, when my mother and I went to these auditions, we didn't have a lot of information. Personal agent dealt with an agent in New York. They would have a call out for a certain type of child, a certain age bracket, that kind of thing. They thought they knew what they wanted, and I have to tell you, a lot of times they ended up with something completely different.
Right.
They could look at 12 little blonde girls and somehow pick the one brunette out of the pack for whatever reason. And that happened to me numerous times. We would go up on these auditions. There would be a ton of little girls running around, every size, shape, and, it was a crapshoot. You would go in, and these people would kind of give you the once-over and ask you a couple questions and mumble to them, to each other, and pluck a few from the pack, have them do something specific, and pick from there.
Okay.
I just was lucky. I just was very lucky. It wasn't that I was extremely talented for any reason, because I wasn't. I was just your average little girl, maybe cute, but so were all the other little girls. So I just really feel like I was lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. Even today, the business, you have to be persistent. You have to show up. You have to be there in order to be involved. So lots of auditions, lots of rejection. That's not a bad thing. It's a learning curve. But you have to be there to be involved. And I've seen it with some adult actors in the independent film industry. In order to break into that bigger field, you really have to put in the work.
Right.
It's not it's not easy by a long shot.
Right, absolutely. So then, from there, in 1965, I believe, you were on a soap opera called The Search for Tomorrow?
Yes.
And what was that show?
Are you familiar with that?
What's that?
Are you familiar with that show, Search for Tomorrow?
I do. I just do my homework.
Okay.
I was going to ask, my question to you is actually what that show was about, and what were you, like 8 years old at the time?
Yes. Yes, I was. Very good. Good math. Search for Tomorrow was a very, very popular soap opera at that time. And the funniest part was my mother was addicted to Search for Tomorrow and General Hospital during that period of time. It had nothing to do with me. So we were very familiar with Search for Tomorrow, and my mom had her favorite actresses and actors on that show. So when I got the audition for that, she was over the moon excited, like, oh my God, I had no clue, but she did.
Of course, yeah.
And when I got the part, my mom was hard to contain because this was crazy. She'd been watching this show for forever, and I don't have the stats on it. You'll have to look it up. But Search for Tomorrow ran for a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, though, and I find this really interesting, especially looking back from today, it was a live show.
Right.
Done absolutely live, and it was 15 minutes long. And I seem to remember, I don't know if it was 11:30 to 11:45 or 11:45 to noon. I don't remember really. It was, but that was the time frame.
Yeah.
And my mom, again, I'm a little girl. My mom would stand outside of the set doors. They had windows in them, and she was short. So all I could see was the top of her head, but I would see her walking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. She was frantic that I would screw up. Don't ruin her soap opera.
Right, yeah, go mom.
But and let me just say, and I say this all the time, my mom was not a stage mom.
Yeah.
She was a sweetheart. She just found herself doing something that was fun, quite by accident. And but anyway, Search for Tomorrow was a great experience for me. I wasn't on it as long as I was on Dark Shadows, but I still was on it during the arc of a certain storyline. And my name was Susie Carter, and I was stricken with asthma, and it was the first time that I got to really act. Commercials and modeling, that's kind of something different, or at least for me it was.
Right, which was what my next question was actually, how did you adjust from going to a soap opera from, coming from the commercial world? Was that like a huge adjustment for somebody so young?
I don't think adjustment is the right word. It was very organic. At that point, I was used to being around a lot of adults. I was used to being basically told what to do what I was told. I didn't have a ton of lines, so that wasn't an issue. I had, spurts of lines, which was very manageable. It was kind of like, this is your mark, this is where you go from here to here, and I could follow direction, So it wasn't a huge leap for me, except I have to say the reason that I brought up the fact that I had asthma, that was part of the storyline, was because it was the first time that I got to do something dramatic. I remember they taped a microphone to my chest, and I had to have an asthma attack. Now, I didn't really know what an asthma attack was, but they kind of filled me in on, the gasping for your breath kind of thing.
Right.
So I got to do that, and that was pretty cool. And then I got written out of the show. They moved me to Arizona or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
Health reasons.
Yeah, of course, for your asthma.
But that was definitely fun.
So then in 1967, you started to portray Sarah Collins on the Gothic soap opera Dark Shadows.
Yes.
And that's still an incredibly popular show in the horror community. I'm a fan of Dark Shadows. That's how I know who you are. And just a great overall show. And by then you'd already been modeling and radio commercials and you had your soap opera experience. So what was it like being on that set? Did you know how big it was going to be, being, 10 years old and starting on this show?
No one that was involved in the original Dark Shadows had a clue that it would ever be the iconic show that it has turned out to be. No one ever suspected that it would still be popular, talked about, followed some 50 plus years later. That was not in anyone's realm of thinking. It was a day-to-day creative project. It was almost like stage production, theater stage production,
right?
Because it was keep moving. It was what they called live to tape. There were no do-overs. I think the whole course of the show, over 1,200 episodes, there maybe was 3 or 4 episodes that, for whatever reason, they had to go back and fix, which was like a crazy thing to do at that time. Very expensive, unheard of, but in those particular instances had to be done. But for the most part, it was day-to-day, get out there, do this. We were having a good time doing it. Sometimes I guess it was stressful for the adults, not for me. There's a great advantage of being a child, not particularly stressful.
Right.
There might have been 1 or 2 times that were a little bit, rushed, stressful, that kind of thing. Yes, I forgot my lines plenty of times. Yes, I screwed up plenty of times. Bloopers will, confirm that fact. But so do the adult actors, because you got a script. You did not get very long amount of time to absorb it, and then they would make changes anyway. So,
gotcha.
Taking that into consideration, everybody had their moment of bloopers,
right.
believe me. But I also feel, looking back, that it kind of it makes the show more lovable. Is that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
More endearing. Maybe that's the word.
Endearing is, that's a good word for it. Yeah, I think the same. Even going back and watching episodes now, you pick up on little things, but it doesn't hinder the show at all.
No.
It's going to be fine from now on, as long as you're here with me.
No, Barnabas. You're not through doing bad things. Do you remember the rhyme you taught me when I was learning how to write?
Yes. I remember how proud I was of you.
Say it for me now.
Well, I'm not sure I remember the exact words.
Say it for me now.
That evil is wicked is well understood. The wicked are punished, so you must be good.
And your character was the sister of a 200-year-old vampire, and that was Barnabas Collins, and you played a ghost. So was that like a scary role for a child who's 10 years old to play?
No, it was great fun. A 10-year-old little girl who gets to dress up in old-fashioned clothes, run around these great sets that were like being inside of a haunted house, only it wasn't haunted for me. I got to see the fakeness of it, the behind the scenes, the pre-makeup of characters. I didn't hear the eerie music in the background. So it was a lot of fun. And being 10 years old, I was given a lot of leeway, and a lot of the adults, maybe not so much the actors, but the guys behind the scenes, the cameramen, the special effects guys, like, they were fun, and they would let me hang out and touch the cameras and mess with the makeup and stuff like that. So it was a fun experience for me. When it was time to get serious and do the actual show, I was a professional. I was there where I was supposed to be. I made my mark. I did what I needed to do. Always a professional in that sense. I understood that this was not a joke. That this was a big deal.
Right.
And I appreciate that, and I appreciated that at the time. But I'm not going to lie to you. It was fun.
That's great. I mean, I wondered about that, being a child on a set that's supposed to be spooky and creepy, and how you would take it, because a lot of kids are still sleeping with the nightlight at that point.
Yeah. Well, I got to see the AstroTurf in the cemetery and the styrofoam headstones.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Now, in 2012, Johnny Depp did the remake of Dark Shadows as a film. What did you think about his rendition of it being more of like a comedy?
before I say my opinion, the Dark Shadows community as a whole was very much looking forward to that project.
Okay.
It had big names. It had big money. We had very high hopes for it. That movie ended up polarizing the Dark Shadows community severely because there were hardcore Dark Shadows followers who said, not my Dark Shadows.
Right.
You know, it's not a joke. Yes, sometimes it could be funny, but it was always done with great seriousness.
Right.
Even though it was over the top, it was done professionally and seriously. And then there was the other side of the coin where people watched the movie and said, that was hysterical, it was funny, that was Johnny Depp's take on it. You know, not a big deal, completely different project.
Right.
And they're right as well.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of the movie, I went to see it because I like to form an opinion based on my opinion, not on everybody else's.
Right.
In all areas of my life. So I went to see the movie, and it started out wonderfully. The scenery, you know, the open scenes, the music was great. The feel of it was that gothic movie feel. It was great. And then all of a sudden, all that changed. Boom! When we went into this tongue-in-cheek humor and...
Are you stoned or something?
They tried stoning me, my dear. It did not work. When did they start allowing women of the night on estate grounds?
And I'm pretty sure he called me a hooker.
Yeah. Not my Dark Shadows.
All right.
Not my Barnabas.
Fair enough.
As standalone, like, hey, do your thing. You know, I have no problem with people making remakes and putting their own bent on it. That's creative. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
But it couldn't touch the series of Dark Shadows. Now, I also understand, so I don't cause an argument, it's impossible to take over 1,200 episodes of Dark Shadows, all those various storylines and characters, of which there were very many,
yeah, and
cram them into a movie of an hour and a half.
Right, of course. Yeah.
I get that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so, yeah, not my Dark Shadows.
Okay.
Not my thing.
I accept it. Now, in 2014, you produced Roxy and Me, and you played the role of Meryl's grandma. How did you get into the producing side of things?
Well, listing me as producer on that, I've seen that too, is a stretch.
Okay.
I would call me a producer on that. Was I involved in it? Yes, absolutely, from beginning to end. Did I get to work both sides of the camera in that? Yes, I did, and that was a great experience as well.
Mm-hmm.
How did that happen was I made friends with independent filmmakers in my area in Bucks County. I live in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And I had seen an article in a newspaper, kind of like a neighborhood newspaper, and I said, oh, this is very cool. I would like to meet these people and see if there's anything that I could do to be involved. And they were awesome. They were so awesome and so talented. And that was my introduction to independent film. And I've since been involved in several independent films. And the projects are great, but what attracts me the most are the people that are involved in it. They're young. They have so much talent and so much energy and so much creativity. Writers, producers, directors, videographers, you know, the whole gamut that goes into making a film. And such heart. None of the big-time backbiting behind closed doors, you know.
Right.
And, like, I relish that. I love that. You get to be immersed in that kind of community with those kind of people. You can't help but my heart swells because of it. I have no delusions of being any great actress or, you know, involved in the making of a film, but I sure do love hanging out and contributing whatever I can, whether it's a comment, an influence, being the sound girl for the day, you know,
right,
taking out the trash, like just being involved in it. I really love that. And as I said, there have been several independent film projects I've been involved with different groups of people.
Right.
Ryan Scott Weber over in New Jersey, Barry Dodd in Maine, and all of them, without question, have such heart and such overflowing creativity. It's just, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it.
Well, that actually brings me to my next question, because I wanted to ask you about two different independent films that I know you're involved in. In 2016 was Ghouls Night Out, and in 2019, The Dark Military. How did you...
That was a stretch for my regular, right?
Yeah. So now those two projects, you mentioned, how much you love the independent film scene. Did they reach out to you for those two films, or did you kind of find them, or how does that all come about? And those two movies in particular, what did you like about those?
Well, Ghouls Night Out, I had met Ryan Scott Weber, who was the creator, part writer, part director. He was involved completely in that. He filmed most of it. Excuse me. I knew him from conventions and through other people. And he just called me up and he said, listen, I have this project. I'd love to attach your name to it. And I said, sure. What do you want me to do? And we filmed that. Well, he did a lot of work before I got there and after. Obviously, that's the way it works. But we filmed for 48 hours straight.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I may be exaggerating just a teeny tiny bit. I was pretty delirious by the end of that. But it was great. I mean, I really got to stretch out of my comfort zone or my persona, because in my life, a lot of Dark Shadows followers, of which I have many, still see me as Little Sarah. And I keep a pretty white bread, vanilla Facebook page, and they look at me that way. So when I'm involved in a movie that has blood and gore in it, and I get to do something that's way out of my character,
yeah,
I get to slit my throat. In one movie, I got to stab somebody in the eye with glass shards. It's a stretch, and it's fun. And isn't that what acting is all about?
Yeah.
You're not there to be you. You're there to explore, whatever character they throw your way.
Right.
So yeah, that was a really fun experience. It was intense. It was wonderful. It was intense. I got to meet some great people on that set, who I still am in contact with. I like that. I develop relationships and friendships with these people that I work with.
Mm-hmm.
You never met them before, but you spend 48 hours doing something intense like making an independent film. You know them by the time you're done.
Oh, I'm sure.
So that was pretty cool. And the other one that you mentioned, Dark Military.
Yes.
Lauren Lepre, who used to be a wrestler, I believe. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but I believe he used to be a wrestler. I had done a radio program with him. I had met him through the independent film industry, some of the gatherings. He would bring a lot of independent film into Philadelphia, to a theater in Center City, Philadelphia. And I went there a few times, even got to judge, I guess, is that the right word? Yeah, judge some of the independent films. And he's a great guy. And he called me up and said, I have this project. I want to put in some cameos of some known people. And I was like, sure, cool. What do you want me to do? And he was so wonderful. They actually came to my home and did the filming of that particular cameo right here in my own house.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it was very cool. And, I had my little bit, and it's a cameo. Absolutely. Just my little bit in there. And, but the movie overall, when I advertised it on my Facebook page, and then it had the trailer and whatnot, people were private messaging me and saying, how can you be involved in this? And it's murderous, and there's blood, and oh my God. And I was like, relax, people. It's not real.
You're right. Right.
I feel like some people don't get that.
I totally agree.
I'm not advocating violence. I'm not advocating horrible things. It's, entertainment.
Right.
And if it's not your thing, cool. Move on.
Right.
I had somebody this morning very antagonistically come onto my Facebook page and say some really rude things. And I don't like to continue those conversations on Facebook thread.
Right.
So I private messaged him, and I said, "Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed, dude? Like, what's up?" And he continued to be very narcissistic and very rude. And I said, "Feel free to scroll past my stuff. You don't have to comment. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all." You know?
Right.
Feel free to delete yourself. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that's not something that you run into often because, generally the horror fans, in my opinion, are usually pretty great people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is kind of funny to people who aren't horror fans to hear that, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
But do you find yourself doing a lot of horror conventions and Comic-Cons and things like that?
I do, and I thoroughly enjoy them. Some people think that, and I only say this because I've had these discussions with people. Some people say to me, "Oh, do you do it for the money?"
Yeah, right.
No. Usually costs me, actually.
Yeah, right.
Between travel expenses and whatever. But, I have friends that are not involved, as you say, in the horror industry. Then they don't get it. I go to these places and I get my picture taken with wrestlers and big scary looking guys and monsters and they're like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
People are Father Evil. I don't know if you're familiar with Father Evil, but I met Father Evil before he was Father Evil. And he created this character that's now iconic. People are having him tattooed on their bodies. I mean, he's going to be around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And I know he'd probably mad at me for saying this, but he's the furthest from evil you ever want to meet.
Yeah.
It's his persona. It's his job. It's what he does.
Right.
And I feel bad for people that can't make that disconnect.
Oh, for sure. It's very much like professional wrestling. Everybody's got a character and a persona, and you play that character, and you get the reactions that you need to get via that character.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And since
I've met some of the nicest people.
Oh, for sure. And since we've brought it up a couple times, are you a wrestling fan?
Fan? I'm going to say no. Only because I don't have... I couldn't rattle off facts and figures and names to you. When my son was younger, he's 26, or he's about to be 26. When he was younger, he was a big wrestling fan. So Mom had no choice but to be a little bit of a wrestling fan.
Right. Yep.
Setting up rings outside in the basement or in the backyard and that kind of thing.
Right.
Monitoring. That was back when there was they were throwing ladders from the second floor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I knew a little bit about it then. And, Steve Austin, The Undertaker, that kind of thing. I know those guys. But currently...
Those are good guys to know.
Are they good guys to know?
You just probably made some of my listeners really happy.
Yay! Well, see, now, I think nowadays, the little bit that I know, Alexa Bliss, I have to like her because she's female. Us girls have to stick together.
Right.
And there's a Scottish wrestler, McIntyre.
Yeah, Drew McIntyre, yeah.
Well, I have to love him just because he's Scottish.
I'm going to be honest with you. You sound like you're a fan.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I think I like boxing better, though.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Something about big men sweating, punching each other. I don't know.
Yes, without the tights on. I get it.
I probably shouldn't say that.
We can edit if you want.
It's fine.
So
the one thing you will find about me, whether in person, on the radio, however, Skyping, whatever it is I am what I am. I don't hold back.
Yeah, and as
I had a wonderful experience. It's allowed me to meet some wonderful people, and I'm blessed that anybody wants to talk to me. So.
That's a good.
I'll take that as a plus.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just to stay off topic from the horror movies, just for one more question, because this podcast is about horror and wrestling and, of course, music. So, are you a music lover too?
I love all music. Everything. I've very eclectic taste. Again, I probably couldn't rattle off artists to you that I particularly like or names of songs that I particularly like, but I feel that music as a whole, be it classical, hard rock, whatever, is very meaningful and touches people in ways that even language can't. And it's healing, it's thought-provoking, and in that sense, I am a music lover, no doubt.
Excellent.
There are certain songs that'll come on, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, that will bring you back to a very specific moment in time, be it good or bad, and it means something. And I know this is going to sound really lame, but I love to watch shows like America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Because it touches me. When I see someone get up there in their 30s and 40s and have just lived a very normal life, been a parent, whatever, and get an opportunity to live their dream and then open their mouth and it's a gift from God, it moves me to tears sometimes.
Yeah, I used to watch that show constantly. It's just some amazing people pop up that you would have never known of otherwise, you know?
Absolutely. Sometimes at the end of the evening, before I, settle in, I'll turn it on my phone and watch a couple episodes or whatever, and it puts a smile on my face. It makes me feel good.
Awesome. So now to jump back into the horror movie questions, do you have a favorite horror film of all time?
Ooh. I don't like, and this is just me personally, I'm not big into bloody slasher, psycho type, like Saw,
Yeah.
I can't do Saw. Sorry. My kids love that stuff. I'm sorry, I can't do it. I like to be freaked out. I like to be freaked out in a movie that isn't handing it to me or feeding it to me with a spoon. I want it to come out of nowhere. I want it to be completely unexpected. That kind of stuff I like. Thoughtful horror.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely.
More on the line of intense Hitchcock.
Right.
There's been a few shows on TV in the past couple of years that I got real into watching. Sure, ask me what the names of them are right now. Blank. Was there a show called Black Mirror, something like that?
I believe so, yeah.
Things like that. They're intense. They suck you in, and then they slap you in the face. Like, whoa, I like that.
Yeah.
I saw a movie one time when I was younger, and I don't know what it was, but whatever it was, there was someone looking in the window from the outside at night, and I saw it when I was a kid. Yeah. And to this day, at night when I close the drapes, I'm still expecting to see those eyes looking back at me.
Right, yeah, it left a mark on you, of course.
So again, movies like that can really leave lasting effects, good and bad. In that case, I was a little freaked out, but I laugh at myself now when I do it. It's like, oh, Sharon, get over it.
Yeah, right. So what do you have coming up next for you? Any conventions, any more movies being made?
I don't have any movies that I'm aware of. Sometimes those things come up very short. They'll be working on a project and they'll just decide to throw something in and need a little old lady with white hair, and, that would be me. Somebody's grandma. I can do that.
Fair enough.
Or some bizarre character, like Grandmama from was it the Munsters? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, actually, I have 3 conventions coming up in the next couple of months.
Okay.
I just got done doing Blobfest in Phoenixville, which was very cool. They actually take 3 days out of the month to give homage to the movie The Blob.
Oh, very cool.
It is very cool. I mean, the whole community gets involved in it. Every storefront is involved in it. They show the movie incessantly. People dress up. It's great. And anyway, I had the opportunity to be involved in that this year, which was a hoot. What do I have coming up? In September, Legends Fest in Clark, New Jersey, which is near Newark.
Okay.
That is a project by Bruce Tango. You can look that up, www.brucetango.com.
Okay.
And Horror Sideshow. It's a Horror Sideshow market. It's in Allentown, PA. It's September 7th and 8th. And again, horrorsideshow.com. That's a Ryan Scott Weber project.
Okay.
And there's a third one. What's the third one, Sharon? Action Con. That's in October. October 26th, Somerset, New Jersey, Barry Mitchell. I don't have a website for that, but I'm sure if you looked up Action Con 2019, I'm sure that you will find something either on Facebook or on the web.
Okay, great. That's awesome. And I do want to thank you once more for doing this. And if you want to plug your social media so people can keep up with you and see any new movie projects and conventions that you're going to be at, feel free to do so now.
Well, everyone is welcome to check out my website, www.SharonSmyth.com. Sharon, I don't know if it's Sharon Lentz or Sharon Smyth, but it'll come up either way. And the Smyth is Smyth, by the way. But it will come up if you just Google it. And also, everyone and anyone is invited to my Facebook page, which is Sharon Lentz, Lentz, where I have several thousand people in my community that we stay pretty active. I'm also involved in a lot of things outside of horror, television and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big advocate for equal rights, civil rights, diversity, peace. So please follow me. I like to put out positive messages daily. And I guess that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate your time. And I will let you know when this airs, and you can feel free to share it to your community.
I will. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, too. Bye-bye.
All right, Rock Soldiers. So that was our interview with Sharon Smyth Lentz of the original Dark Shadows and a ton of other things as we have learned today. So I hope you enjoyed the interview. Give us some feedback. Rate the show, like the show, subscribe to the show, and we will keep doing our best to bring you the latest and greatest interviews in horror, paranormal, rock and roll, well, any kind of music really, and of course the world of professional wrestling. So thank you all for listening once again, and I will see you next time on the All Bets Are Off podcast with Robbie Vegas.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.
Welcome, everyone. This is Sleazy.
This is the Fat Man.
And the world-famous R-rated podcast is now on the Gear Network. The Wrestling Show with Sleazy and the Fat Man is classless and raunchy commentary on the wrestling business today. Our multiple hosts, including Sleazy the Fat Man, Chip Willett, and NEW owner Travis Kenning, give a differing take on news, rumors, reviews, and previews of the entirety of the worldwide pro wrestling market.
We do what we want, we say what we want, and we don't give a at all. That's just the way we go.
Check us out on the Gear Network.